enjoy the sausage. Father. It's always good with barbecue. All you can eat. Goodbye. Enjoy your barbecue. For that is, or at one time was, your God. We love Jesus. We love Fort Worth Paradox Church. So we'll be passing the post office after the water gardens. And the name of the style of art is pronounced Beaux-Arts. There's argument that it could be pronounced Beaux-Arts and Beaux-Arts. But it's written in the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, as Beaux-Arts. Sounding very similar to bizarre. Beaux-Arts. It's spelled B-E-A-U-X. And it's a cross between three arts. French neoclassicism, Renaissance, and elements of Baroque. And that's the 1931 built post office, Fort Worth post office. It went into business in 1933. It's right up here. We're going to see it from a distance. Wyatt Hedrick was the architect who did it because he never chose to beat his children. His name is Wyatt Hedrick. He became a successful architect because he chose peace rather than war. It's right through those trees. But you can only imagine it. If you watch my vlog, I passed by it many times. You can see a tad of it right over here. We'll pass it in just a minute. There's part of it. Right there, straight ahead. That's the side of it right there. Went into business in 1933. It is on the endangered buildings of the National Registry. Went in the National Registry in 1985. It became an endangered building not too long ago. Being endangered for being torn down. It's just a post office. They do have murals inside that represent this type of art. It's inside the post office. I think I might have been inside it. I'd have to go back. There's a revolving door over there. When I did the play Hot L Baltimore by Langford Wilson, I played the John. And the director used the outside as a facade to represent the Hotel Baltimore, as known as the Hot L Baltimore, because the E was missing in the sign. Langford Wilson wrote it as Hot L Baltimore. There was no E there in the sign, rather than the Hotel Baltimore, which I've been by one of the Hotel Baltimores. We're going into the cultural district right here. This is the building too. Called the social space, and that's pay attention. These are murals at night because I get my payment through work rather than the show. I have been paid a little bit for the show. I'm still waiting for AdSense. Says Love Live. I am a man, but not the man. That looks like Madonna right there. Those are more jazz musicians. Waiting for the man. $26 in his hand. Now, see, that could really mean anything, you know, a Lou Reed song. I mean, you know what it means, or you think you do. Let me ask you one question, though. Are you 100% sure that Lou Reed took a single thing of drugs? Are you 100% sure, though? Would you be surprised if you learned that Lou Reed never did any drugs? But let me explain something. He was a very religious guy. But let me explain something. You wouldn't be able to prove it in a million years. Now, if we went back in time and the Glorious Glowhands and made that an episode, and in the episode you learn that Lou Reed never touched drugs in a million years, but he made a lot of money singing about it. He maybe drank a beer or wine every once in a while. You would never know. The guy who wrote Heroin, he wrote a song called Heroin. He also wrote Waiting for the Man. Elliott Smith was found dead with 2 knife wounds in his heart. Not an ounce of drugs, when everyone was 100% sure he was a heroin addict. They found a little tiny bit of Ritalin, because he was prescribed Ritalin, which he tweaked in a very bad way. What you were looking at was a result of Ritalin. Elliott Smith probably never even touched heroin. You would never know. But the autopsy report said that he only had a little bit of Ritalin from his medication. He sang about it, and he looked like it. He was a good actor, but you would never know. I can tell you this, no one could play Angelus the way he did. You know, no one could do that. He couldn't even do it. Listen, there's people that hated Lou Reed, that spit on Lou Reed, called him a sinner and everything. And he talks about heroin and the keys to the kingdom. Because, hey, heroin is just another version of what's called morphine. It's about the same as morphine. They give you morphine when you die. That's why it's the keys to the kingdom. You don't have to take morphine when you die. You can feel the pain of death. But a lot of people do choose to take morphine when they die. I mean, it's almost, I wouldn't say his life was a mercy killing, because he wasn't as bad as like Philip Seymour Hoffman, who was stacking. Now, he probably was on it. He was an ex-heroin addict that beat it. Philip Seymour Hoffman beat it, and then towards the end, he stacked it, and then that was it. Heath Ledger was a victim of not only serotonin uptakes, but psychological drugs that supposedly calm you or whatever. And Michael Jackson took it way to the extreme with using anesthesia to go to sleep. But, you know, something like Heath Ledger, for example, he was probably prescribed that by 4 or 5 different psychiatry, and then stacked it and lost. River was a victim of who he hung out with, because Jean Friante, whatever, from the Red Hot Chili Peppers said, hey, take this, it would make you feel better. And he took a sip, and that killed him, because he had been fasting, which was probably nearly like taking strychnine. What it was a form of martyring. And he laughed about it and said, hey, this will make you feel good. And then he went off and played many Red Hot Chili Pepper shows. They even tried to blame Johnny Depp for it too. And he just walked up with him a blue cup and said, here, take a sip. That's you don't do that, not even in a party. But he trusted him because he had hung out with him many times and recorded music. And it was like, it was called a speedball or something like that. And it killed him. You have to be careful. You can't shove anyone. If that's related to the police telling them to do that, shoving someone, that can kill them. And that cop could be tried for attempted murder if we find out who he is. All I know is the hat said CCPD or something like that. He had like light color hair. He was a white guy, about 6 foot. Looked like a criminal too under his ball cap. Looking very worried. Standing right there on my stoop for more than 30 minutes or so to talk to that person. And what did he tell him? That night, that was when the assault happened. You're talking about corruption. We don't know what he said to him. Right? Maybe you could ask a certain brother-in-law. All right, I'm waiting for the man. $26 in my hand. The thing about Lou Reed that you have to pay attention to in his music is little things. He'll say, like, he actually says, I'm waiting for my man. And it's called I'm waiting for the man. But he says, I'm waiting for my man. $26 in my hand, because he was like an emperor of that underground, the Velvet Underground. He was an emperor, okay? So he was kind of like Nero or something crazy. of the rock and roll scene. Now, so it was his man that he was waiting for, this dark character that showed up late. Here's another thing about Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground and Nico. Okay. It shows Nico on there. If I push it, it'll turn the camera off. He hung out with Andy Warhol, so it was like Andy Warhol was like a version of a YouTuber for sure. And they all wear Andy Warhol shirts because he multiplied things over and over and over again, even if it was just pop art or whatever. He would multiply things, whether it just be anything like a phone. He would make 50 phones or 50 photos of Elvis, you know, on a scrim. Reed did the same with music, though, but it was in his like rhythm and how he strummed the guitar. Reed did the way that he strummed the guitar. It was a very careful thing. They're both extreme artists. Andy was pretty bad. They're both pretty bad, but they survived it to a certain extent until he ran into this lesbian playwright that wrote this thing called Scum or something like that, and it was kind of crazy. Because it's a buy one get one free, is I'm waiting for the man. $6.18 in my hand. Got a high protein 4-gram total sugar with 20 grams of soy protein and a zero Coke. We used this place for water refreshment when we were shooting Once in a Lifetime. We took a photo. Rob Vasquez, Corbin Thorpe, and I took a photo right here. And Corbin looked over, or actually Rob looked over Corbin and said, and kind of petted him and said, "He's a good fella." We're big Goodfella fans. Who's not, you know what I mean? Anyway, I still want to see Killers of the Flower Moon. Templeton the Rat. Last section, I was Gander and Charlotte's Web at a children's show. This road right here. It's Templeton. You'll figure it out through looking at it on Google. And I'll show it up this way. Templeton was a rat. So he worked with the gander and the pig and a bunch of other people. The reason why he was a rat was because he was born that way. So was the gander. The gander was a gander because he was born that way. This right here is Templeton. You can barely see it. You just have to take my word for it. It's Templeton. And the reason why Templeton was the rat was because he had to organize the yard. That's what the rat kind of did. Organize things. Now, the gander couldn't spell. He went double T, double E, double R, double I, double F, double I, double C. Terrific is spelled Terrific. Ask my father to spell terrific for you. Or ask him to spell faucet. And then ask him if he remembers the movie Forrest Gump. Because they basically drafted special people. Sometimes put them in special intelligence. He had this thing where he talked really quick. When he was opening the class, it was supposed to be a joke, he said. He had it all memorized. Anyway, that's Montgomery Plaza. It's a really nice place to live underneath their Chinese foods and stuff like that. Then there's a health food place right over there. All right. Rejoice. The Lord always. Or something like that. Velvet Underground in 1970 did an album called Loaded. That's the one that has, it looks like the subway and it's got like a pink cloud coming up. That album is called Loaded. 1970. The one right next to that, or the next one following, is 1973. It's called The Squeeze. Another thing about Lou Reed is he would say things, he would always use the word of. He talked a little bit like sometimes Linda talks. He used the English language in a very weird way in his songs. So instead of saying like, in Sweet Nothing, he uses the word of in a real weird way. which is like old, not really kind of old English. There's another good song too. I don't know what album it's on, but it's called Venus and Furs. And it's also kind of a rock iconic song.